But what I've learned with anything is if you don't say something and you don't throw it out there, no one can grasp onto it. No one can read your mind to know what you're thinking or what you want to do. When you have a good leader, you have a better climate, whether it's in the country, where it's in a corporation, it could be even in a family. Leadership is something that is so critical. John Maxwell says it best is everything rises and falls on leadership. And I truly believe that, and why I'm so passionate about talking about leadership, talking about personal growth, talking about becoming the most incredible version of ourselves.
Turn this up, turn this up.
Your professional development is one of the keys to your career success. When you combine your desire to grow with actionable steps, your journey to success becomes an incredible reality.
Hi, I'm Paul Faronbi, aka IncrediPaul, and welcome to IncrediPaul Leadership, where I talk to incredible people doing incredible things so we can become the most incredible versions of ourselves. First off, thank you so much for listening to this episode, but I also want you to know you could also watch this episode on YouTube. Regardless if you're listening or watching this episode, bonus points for doing both. Really appreciate your support. If you've ever thought about podcasting, or maybe you're a podcaster and you're just looking for a community of podcasters to keep going and look for ideas, maybe find guests, the IncrediPaul podcast community is for you. Go to IncrediPaul.org/community to find out about that. Also, if you are looking to be the most incredible version of yourself, get the Be Incredible Starter Pack. Has a resume template, budget template, interview guide, and leadership masterclass, all for free. IncrediPaul.org/start. You can just go to IncrediPaul.org. You can find both of those things. So those are some commercials, but I want to really dive into this episode. And this episode, I am celebrating 6 years of IncrediPaul. So it is incredible and crazy to think that I've been doing this for 6 years now. When I first started, I had no idea where it would be. I had no idea I was ever going to be a podcaster, had not thought about podcasting at all. So started in 2020 of mid-April 2020 is when I launched IncrediPaul. And I didn't even start calling, even though I've been podcasting for the last 4 years. I started IncrediPaul in 2020, but been podcasting since 2022. I didn't even call myself a podcaster until 2024. And I think maybe part of that is because I started releasing episodes every week in the middle of 2023. But even before that, I was very much focused on career development, did a lot of career coaching, did some speaking on career stuff, resume, interviews, some LinkedIn stuff when I first started IncrediPaul. And podcasting was not anything I ever thought about. I had a blog that I had been doing during COVID, just talking about different things, the state of the world. They were all cooped up. My creative juices started flowing, so I released a blog. And I started to read the blog and had a recording for it. And that honestly was the foundations of what I started with the podcast. But I didn't really think about it then. It was after where I was doing a lot of different speaking virtually because no one was doing stuff in person at that time. And people would see my logo, see the mic, and ask if I have a podcast. And I said, no, I don't. And then I just felt like I needed to go into podcasting. So I prayed about it and I was like, you know what? Let's just try it and see what happens. Beginning of 2022, was releasing episodes once a month up until I think it was like September, October. I was like, you know what? I'm going to create a plan to release episodes more consistently. And beginning of 2023, I was releasing episodes every other week. I mentioned for middle of 2023, been releasing episodes every week pretty consistently. I've strategically taken some breaks here and there to not release episodes, but average of 48 episodes a year, been releasing since 2024. Since 2024. And I'm up over 160 episodes now, which is crazy to think and how far that it has come. And yeah, it's been a journey. It's been really exciting. And even when I first started podcasting, I really forced myself into it. So I reached out to a friend that does a lot of voiceover work. I think it was episode 4 or 5 of the podcast, so super early on. And I reached out to him to create an intro for the podcast before I ever recorded my first episode. So that was one of the things I was like, I know I want to do this. I had the concept, I had the intro for the podcast made before I ever recorded a single episode. And it's the same intro I have today. So before the podcast was IncrediPaul Podcast, I since changed it to IncrediPaul Leadership. So I just shortened the intro to, because as part of the intro he had recorded before, he said the IncrediPaul Podcast, which is funny. People still call it the IncrediPaul Podcast, even though it's IncrediPaul Leadership. And purposely just saying IncrediPaul Leadership, call it a show. It is a podcast. And sometimes I think about going back to just calling it the IncrediPaul Podcast because I'm super passionate about leadership. I feel like naturally some other topics that I'm passionate about has come up in different episodes, and I kind of introduced those things as well. So we'll see. Maybe this podcast will expand, or maybe I will launch a new podcast. Hint, hint. Give me thoughts or ideas of a podcast you think I could expand to launch. I have actually a couple different ideas for podcasts, but right now I just don't have the time and focus on a few different things. Transition to IncrediPaul Leadership in episode 40. And that is what I love about podcasting. I've told people who start podcasts is you can really grow and evolve with a podcast. It's really rare that anyone who starts a podcast sticks with the same theme or the same thing throughout. Like some people do it and stay with it, but the podcasts you know and love today, they're really big. They have evolved and kind of like a lot of them have become more general and they have like really big followings, but they've been doing it for a very long time before they got to that point. Casting is an evolution. Like with anything, you can grow, you can learn, you can change. I've got to interview people, over 100 people really around the world, which I've been excited that I've been able to do that because I have a virtual podcast. And sometimes I think about doing stuff more in person and going to a studio. And besides the fact that you have to pay to have a studio, and I have one at home that I can use, and I could bring people in person here if I really wanted to do that. But being able to record virtually allows it more to be more convenient to the guests because you get to record from your home or your own personal studio, wherever where you're more comfortable. And so for the time being, I'm going to be focused on doing virtual podcasts, but I've also thought about doing podcasts on the road and going on a show, going to different places, coming to different people. That is something I thought about. If you want me to do that, let me know. Or maybe you're listening to this and you want to be on the show, but you prefer to do it in person. I can come to you. We can talk about how we can make that happen. And that's something I've been thinking about with my schedule and the different things I'm doing. Should have more time in the second half of the year. Most likely those episodes won't come out until 2027, but we can start going on the road towards the second half of 2026. Just an idea I'm throwing out there. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But what I've learned with anything is if you don't say something and you don't throw it out there, no one can grasp onto it. No one can read your mind to know what you're thinking or what you want to do. Other things just from the podcast in general that I've learned, common themes that always come up in a podcast, and really anytime I'm speaking, is imposter syndrome, and something that is prevalent in every country. And then leadership challenges transcend country lines as well. It's really easy. I know most of the people that listen to this podcast are in the United States, and we have our own leadership challenges with the person who is our current president. I try not to talk too much about it, but I think if you know anything that I stand on with leadership, you should know that everything that President Trump does and says is really the antithesis of what I teach and share and the guests I have on what good leadership looks like. So it's not something I support in any realm. But at the same time, try to focus on the positive thing, focus on things I can control, really understanding that when you have a good leader, you have a better climate, whether it's in the country, where it's in a corporation, it could be even in a family. Leadership is something that is so critical. John Maxwell says it best is everything rises and falls on leadership. And I truly believe that. And why I'm so passionate about talking about leadership, talking about personal growth, talking about becoming the most incredible version of ourselves and that piece of yourself, because I don't want you to lose yourself. Like, obviously you can upskill, you can get better, but there's still things that are intrinsically you that I don't think you need to lose. Other things that I've been working on, I mentioned the podcast community at the beginning of this. I'm trying to be more intentional about talking about it because I realized that podcasters need support. I've needed support as a podcaster, and there's a huge podcast network, people that I either had on the show or have podcasts on their own that I'm just connected with. Maybe I've been on their podcast, and it is really cool to see how they do different things. And just even with the rise of AI, like there's so many cool different tools you can be using. Casting has never been more accessible than ever, but at the same time, you still have to work on specific things to be able to have a good podcast, have good conversation, ask good questions, be really intentional. And I can help with all those things. That's why I launched a podcast community. Other thing that I launched is the ambassador program. So I shared a little bit more about this earlier in the year, and applications aren't open right now, but they will open again in the fall. And the whole brand of IncrediPaul is about empowering Gen Z professionals, especially in STEM. I help everyone, but I'm really focused on Gen Z professionals, especially in STEM. And so if you are looking to help in that way, you want to learn more about what I do behind the scenes, whether it's in the podcasting, the speaking, or even coaching side of things, which I don't talk too much about, but I still do some coaching on the side and more on a request basis. So if you want to learn more about the stuff I do, or you just want to support, the ambassador program is the best way to do that. So that'll open up later in the fall, but definitely you can reach out at any time and connect and talk about what it looks like, and we can go from there. Something else that I don't really talk about, but I need to talk about more is I am a top 10% global podcast. So I do this along the things I do with speaking, as I mentioned, coaching, as I mentioned. I work full time as an R&D engineer, which I love, being able to work on new innovations and renovations for brands that you all know and love. And I never set out to be a top podcaster. Like I mentioned, I didn't even start calling myself a podcaster until 2024. And I don't know why I was just hesitant, because I was more focused on the speaking side. But what I've realized more and more is I can do the speaking through the podcast. And even that's why I started doing more solo episodes every other week since the middle of last year. So now coming up of a year of every other week doing solo episodes. And so just slotting them in here and there, been more intentional. So I can do the speaking in the podcast realm. I can also do it outside of it. I can host different panels, go to different conferences, all those different things. But throughout all the stuff I've been doing with IncrediPaul and even with Nala STEM is that I continue to grow myself as an engineer, put myself in different situations, explore different things. So been all in the CPG space, so consumer packaged goods space, which I like because I am able to see the work that I do. I can go to the store and see it. It's tangible. Nothing against the stuff that's in tech, but it's not tangible. You can't touch it. You can see it, obviously, but it's not a physical product. And I think there's something different for me of being a part of something that is physical, especially because I've been on the food cycle, so people can eat. And that's something I'm really proud of, and just continuing to upskill in my career, whether it's when I've been more entry level as an engineer, I did stuff in continuous improvement. I've been a manager, now more so on the technical side of things, and then probably will move on to different management roles in the future, but really enjoying what I'm doing in the research development, and just being able to see the different sides of things across manufacturing and having different projects and things and working with different functions, even functions that aren't necessarily my direct functions, just seeing, just understand what it means to run a $1 billion organization has been really cool. So another thing I mentioned, I do IncrediPaul, NALA STEM, National Alliance for the Acceleration of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. It's a mouthful. Say NALA STEM, say NALA. I no longer lead NALA STEM, as I've mentioned in the past, if you've seen episodes, but I'm still very much supportive of it. So now I'm more in an advisory role, help found that organization. That is also coming up on 6 years as well. So I founded that organization in October of 2020. So the same year as IncrediPaul, 6 months later. And so for the longest time, I was balancing and juggling the two. I didn't focus on either of them as much as I could. It kind of ebbed and flowed. And so towards the end of last year, made the decision that, hey, I need to really hone in and focus on IncrediPaul. I have a great president and CEO that we've been working together for a while, really the last 4 years now, since 2020. So yeah, like 3 years. Yeah. 3+ years for that we've been working together. And so super excited at what she has been doing and what we can do together. So I'm no longer leading it, but still very much involved. And so not 2023, actually, 2021 is when she was involved. So over 5 years, almost since the beginning. But I mentioned those things and just wanted to take some time to reflect on all the stuff in IncrediPaul to say that be intentional with how you spend your time and what you want to do. I think it's good to have a long-term vision whenever you start something, but that vision can change, that vision can shift, can evolve. Don't be afraid to take the first step because you don't see the end result. Don't be afraid to take the first step because you don't see the end result. We see this all the time with different founders. They create something. Amazon was not what it is today when Jeff Bezos first started it. It changed, it's shifted, it's grown. And I think that's a good example, an extreme example, because it's the richest company in the world. And that's not probably, maybe he thought that, but most people would not have thought that when it first started. And I think just be intentional about what you want to start, have a vision, but also realize that your vision can change and shift. And just being resilient, as we talk about on the show, is really important. Surrounding yourself with the right people, your surroundings, your environment matters more than what we realize, because we can have the best intentions, the best internal motivations, but sometimes being in the wrong environment can stifle your dreams. As much as possible, put yourself in the right rooms. If you can't actually physically be in the right rooms, be in those rooms by the books you read, by the podcasts you listen to, by the events you attend, whatever you can to have the voices that are driving you forward outweigh the voices that are keeping you back. But for me, this week, if all goes well, I will be on a beach somewhere celebrating IncrediPaul and just relaxing for once. I relax all the time. It's usually like smaller scale, like maybe a couple of days or a long weekend. I've been more intentional recently about taking the time to unplug when I can. But it's been a journey, and I would say if you're someone that is super driven, super wants to be successful, wants things to go well, don't burn yourself out. Be intentional about taking breaks and celebrating the wins. And that's really what this episode is about, is celebrating the 6 years. So excited and happy 6 years to IncrediPaul this week, but I know that more is to come. I honestly feel like I'm just getting started. It's crazy to say that because of all the stuff I've been doing and the people I've been connected with, but it just feels like I'm scratching the surface. And there's so many other things, exciting things that I want to do and feel like I can do. And I know with your support and with people continue to find me and continue to just join me on this journey to being incredible. Thank you for listening, and thank you so much for your support over the last 6 years, and excited for the next 6 years.
Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you here next time. And be incredible. Incredible.